Here. My name is Dean Slauson. For those who don't know me, I work in the program management group in Microsoft Research that facilitates technology transfer. And I'm here on behalf of Xiaoning Ling on my team, who is the official host of this event. Xiaoning works in particular supporting the MSN and developer division when we do technology transfer, and is also the liaison with our Asia Lab. And so through his connections with MSN, he had a chance to meet with Dane Glasgow, and we've had a little bit of an email exchange occasionally about how we could integrate some of their efforts. So there's a lot of incubation things going on in the company, and we're really happy to have folks from MS Ideas come and share a little bit about what they're doing to help us know what's going on and collaborate in the space of innovation. So take it away.
Thanks, Dean. So I'll give a little bit of introduction about where we came from. We actually live in MSN. The reason that we've been doing this project is that about a year ago now, we were asked to look at what incubation meant for MSN. And as a part of that process, we went through first thinking, well, we could build an incubation team, and we started to run into some challenges around that, and started running into challenges of how ideas actually happen inside of Microsoft. So what I thought I'd do today is walk you through a little bit about the research we did around innovation, and to talk about how ideas come to be outside of Microsoft, a little bit about how ideas come to be currently inside of Microsoft, some of the challenges that we ran across, and then talk about the product that we developed to sort of try to start solving some of those problems. And Bubba is going to help me out by giving a demo of MS Ideas. So what was the first thing we found looking outside of Microsoft? Startups and venture capital. A lot of people would say that the venture capital community is sort of not funding a whole lot of new ideas and a whole lot of new companies, but that is definitely incorrect now. Just in the Bay Area, we're from California, so just in the Bay Area, they invested last quarter $1.62 billion, which is pretty impressive when you think about it, and a lot of money going behind ideas. But there's a challenge outside in the market, right? Clearly, only a few make it, and so only really big bets get invested in. Smaller ideas are sort of put by the wayside looking for the big payoffs. Another thing we found was business incubators. How many folks have heard of Idea Lab? Yeah, most everybody? Yeah, okay. So the value behind a business incubator is pretty clear. They leverage common resources, common infrastructure. They're able to try out an idea very quickly, decide within a matter of months whether it's going to pay off. And if it's not, roll those resources back into a new project. Probably the best example of this is Idea Lab, with over $1 billion invested right before the bubble burst. They became sort of a poster child for some of the internet woes. If you look at the companies that they actually put out there, some today, very big, very valuable, like Overture in the search space. Some sort of like eToys, billion-dollar company that is no longer. So you can see that even in this model, there's a big trial and push to try new things and then see what happens. Another interesting thing that we found was the open source development model outside of the company. SourceForge, everyone heard of SourceForge? Interesting? Yeah, exactly. So this is an interesting find when we were evaluating this. You're looking at something that has close to 1 million developers involved and doing like 100,000 projects almost. I mean, we're talking about a pretty major resource. And the innovation and incubation is happening sort of at the level of individual, right? This is not a major funded thing. There's not a lot of money behind this. These people are doing this because they're interested in it. But you also see some rather large companies getting involved with SourceForge projects. Intel's a good example with the Performance Primitives library, right? The computer vision library that sits on top of that is a SourceForge project that's been developed by folks all across the world. But what we also saw was that folks are participating in this model not because they have this drive to be a part of open source. It's more because they get opportunities to do new things, try new things. They get growth opportunities. They get the chance to experience projects that maybe their career or their job isn't currently offering them. And they also get opportunities to network with people, find a new job. So the interesting findings here that you'll see translate into what we did with MS Ideas is that there's a lot of interest around sort of growing and finding new opportunities. And I think that exists inside of Microsoft as well. Another interesting thing that we found was contests and challenges. So there's some big ones in the press right now. The DARPA Grand Challenge, I don't think anyone came close to winning that one. But what we saw was that by having a challenge, you can frame a problem and have people come at it from a lot of different perspectives. I think Boeing is probably one of the more interesting initiatives where employees can actually propose startup companies and get funded to launch a new company, and Boeing funds it. The key here is these aren't aerospace ideas. Someone actually built a quarter managing system for games, arcade games. And they had an idea for it and a way to do it and a way to do it cheaper. And that was one of the projects that got funded. So it's a very interesting model. So when we turned to Microsoft, we saw some of the same things. We saw some contests and some challenges going on. The Think and Ink competition is probably one of the larger ones recently. I would actually argue that we don't have enough of these going on inside the company today. I think these types of things allow those people across the organization to participate in new ideas and new technologies. Another thing that we saw was some folks are just finding a way to do it no matter what. The infrastructure may not be in place to help them try out new ideas, but they're just going to do it anyway. And I think XCar is a great example of this, where a few folks put together something that like blew away the auto PC product that we have. Right? Now, granted, they didn't have all the restrictions and all the problems as far as interfacing with manufacturers, but they were able to put together something really cool in a pretty short period of time, and they leveraged Microsoft resources to do it. They had a SharePoint site. They did these things internally to sort of push the process forward. But there isn't a lot of support for this right now. There's not a good way to do that today. So another thing. Microsoft Research, since I imagine most of you are from research, I won't spend a lot of time explaining what research is. But it's clear that that's an area where inside the company new ideas form. And that's one of the ways that new ideas get transferred into the organization is from research. But probably more interesting is something new, is that we saw incubation teams have started to form across the company. So have any folks heard of Greenhouse? I imagine, yeah, a few? Good. So what we saw was that each division was seeing a need for an incubation model. What's interesting is that everybody's sort of trying a different model right now. So we have tops-down incubation, we have bottoms-up incubation, we have funded incubation teams like IdeaLab almost in the sense where they can actually fund projects with resources. You see a variety of things. In MSN, for example, we looked at it and said, wow, our organization is stretched to the max right now, doing a lot of innovative stuff, trying to catch up in the marketplace, do new things. Do we need a funded team to go think about incubation? And we couldn't say yes. It was like, wow, we shouldn't have dedicated resources to that just yet. But in cases like Office, we're looking to grow the business another $1 billion. Having dedicated resources to go try out new ideas makes a lot more sense. So within each division, everyone's trying a different model. But again, one of the challenges that we see, if I sit in MSN and I have an idea for Office, how does that idea get to Office? How does anyone actually listen to that idea? How do I know anyone even cares that I have an opinion about it, right? How do I get any feedback whether my idea is good or bad? I mean, I know sitting as a product team in MSN that we get a ton of ideas that people say, oh, you need this feature in Messenger, or we need this feature in Hotmail, and wow, it's really hard to get back to everybody and be like, yes, we're working on that. No, that's not a good idea, and this is why, right? So you look at how do you sort of manage that process? How do you get that process going? And how do you leverage like the IQ that's in the organization? I mean, there's a ton of potential in this 50,000 plus person company. And how do we actually cultivate that and grow the ideas? So what we came up with was MS Ideas. And Ideas breaks into 3 areas. Basically, it's an internal resource for full-time employees to collaborate on ideas, to form virtual project teams to actually try the idea, to expand the business plan, expand the product planning. We also offer a group space, and the group space is where people can come together from across the company to talk about common topics. So we have a communications group, and that you might say that's awfully broad, but the idea is to get people together. And so We're going to start with a small number of groups so that we can sort of grow that service. And as needed, we'll probably separate those things out to smaller and smaller focuses. But the idea is there's an evolution to the process. You submit an idea to the site, you get something on the site, right? So everyone can see it, everyone can take a look at it and give you feedback. We support discussion groups and a variety of other features to help you grow that idea. If you submit an idea, that, for example, that's targeted towards MSN, we give you a framework to fill out for that idea that targets MSN. For example, Office might not have an operations section to their idea, but for MSN it's pretty important. So we tailor the areas that you need to fill out or think about for your idea based on the organization that it's targeted towards. Say you submit an idea and now you want to get some help. Like, I'm a PM, I'm not a marketing person. I don't know how to do the numbers, right? I want to know how to do that. I want to get some help. Well, you can form a virtual project team and actually post virtual job listings saying, I need help with something. Can someone help me with this? And so you can actually grow a team cross-division. Doesn't matter where people are coming from. You can find the resources that you're looking for. And then finally, once an idea is sort of gelled into something that you feel is, worthy of or ready to be presented for an executive review or incubation funding to actually fund the project, you can submit the idea to incubation teams. And what we do is actually send the incubator mail to all the teams, Greenhouse, Windows, everyone that we're working with is participating. And those teams will actually give you feedback about your idea. So they might say median interest, no interest, maybe in the future. And they'll also give you sort of solid content about your idea. Wow, this is an interesting idea, neat technology idea. We really need to figure out, is there a business here? You should talk to so-and-so. So what we're trying to do is help people find the connections that they need in order to get these ideas from in my head to actually being a funded project inside the company. And I think what I'll do now is turn this over to Bubba to do a quick demo.
Thanks, Dane. My name is Bubba Maruk. I'm a PM, and I'm working on MS Ideas with Dane. And I'm going to go ahead and open the site up. I'm actually going to go to our test site, but let me do this. And I'll pretend I'm Dane Glasgow for the day. Yeah, so we're here at the home site, and you can see across the top there's a couple of major tabs. I'm going to just talk about them real quick. They kind of map to what Dane was talking about. We have the ideas space, which is where you can go to review ideas, check out what other people have posted, as well as submit new ideas. And we'll come back to that in a second. We have the project space, where you can also see the projects that exist, create new projects, browse the help wanted, do that. And then we have the group space, which is where you can go into one of the 18 top-level categories and start finding people that are talking about things in these categories that are interesting to you, and connect with other people and maybe start to create new ideas or build upon an idea that's just forming in your head as a seed, and kind of get it to fruition so you can submit it. So why don't I... a couple other tabs. There's the About Us that has some information on us, as well as the My Ideas, which is where you can get to all the content you've posted on the site. I'm going to go back to the Ideas tab, and actually, let's go look for an idea. I'm kind of been thinking about something, it's the spam thing I've been hearing about. It's kind of a problem, and I have this idea for, want to see what other people are thinking about spam and how to solve it. So I could go down to, say, the communications group and check out what's with mail. And actually, there's a couple posts here, and what's this MS Courier? I'll go click on that, check it out, and there's actually a way to declare secure mail using IPv6 and a bunch of other things, but that's not really what I'm looking for. And so I've been kind of thinking about something called closed mail. What if you could only get 5 mails that people didn't know you from a month, and so that if you sent to more than 5 strangers a month, we started charging you, or coming up kind of with this idea. So I'm playing with it, and I'm thinking I'm actually going to submit it, and kind of work through it. So I get to kind of the submit UI idea place, and there's 2 options here. There's actually a third option that's grayed out right now. The first option is really maps to what I want to do, which is a new product idea. This is a whole new product and service. Oh, do you have here?
Could you bump up the font size?
Sure. Is that Alt?
Control.
Control. That is not working. Yep. This mouse is... That didn't really help anything. I'm going to increase the screen resolution.
You're fine. Just carry on. Sorry.
All right. Cool. All right, I'm going to carry on, I guess. If you guys want to move forward, we got a couple open seats, just one or two in the front. So we have the opportunity to create a new idea or a new product. The other option that's up there is a product enhancement, and that's if I have an idea for, instead of creating a whole new idea or new product or new service, I actually have a way that I want to help span just an Outlook, and I want to kind of make sure to bucket it in the Outlook idea, so the Outlook team maybe will get a chance to see it. I could go down that route. And the other one is suggestions, and that's currently grayed out. That's something we're going to implement in the future, and that's really, kind of giving a bucket for people to say, hey, I have an idea for improving an internal process or something that Microsoft is doing, and I want to kind of give the suggestion in an anonymous way, in a constructive way. And so that's something we're working with to create contact points within the organization. So you say, hey, I have a better suggestion for how we should do, the review process, and I want to get that bubbled up somewhere. So we kind of have these three buckets that we've created, and I see another question right there.
Yeah, with the suggestion, is that also a place where you would imagine people would say, I have a problem with this particular feature, where they know the problem but not the solution, and a way to propose, like that somebody else should perhaps suggest ideas for that, or is there a completely separate mechanism for that?
So there's actually not something in that in the site right now for that. The suggestions box is really seen as kind of talking about process and challenges within the company per se, but we have kind of talked about something coming out for V2 or a future release is the concept of a challenge. One of the things that, we have a lot of great big idea out-of-the-box thinkers at Microsoft. We also have a lot of great people that can look at a problem and figure out the absolute best, awesomest solution to it, given the constraints. And so we want to kind of create a system and another hook, another class category of ideas saying, hey, here's a challenge we're facing. Whether it's with a specific product, whether it's with whole market space, whether it's with a marketing issue, whatever it is, and really float it out to the organization so you can learn from other people within the company that may have either already solved this challenge or may just be really good at solving challenges and have a really great idea for you to kind of pursue. Does that make sense and answer your question?
Thank you.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
Aren't suggestions just ideas in an internal topic area, or is the anonymous part key, or?
So part of it is the anonymous part to be able to be fully, give constructive feedback as you see fit, and it feels safe doing that. Dane, do you want to answer a little bit more deeper on that?
Yeah, I think the idea is that having an anonymous piece is important, right? Having some way to say, I think we should have Odwalla, and not necessarily have to have your name associated with that, is sort of an important feature. And the part that we're still working out, which is why the feature isn't exposed today, is what's the right way to do that, and how do we connect that data, and how do we mine that data so that it's not just a flood of random suggestions. Does that answer your question? Sort of? Yeah, okay.
All right. So we talked about, I want to take a quick detour and talk about those. Now I'm going to go back and continue on my flow of entering an idea. And so I'm going to go with the new product idea, and I'm going to hit continue. And I'm going to get to a page where I have a chance to put in an idea topic. And this title is actually going to be how the idea is bubbled throughout the interface of the system of the website. So it's pretty important to put something that's concise. And so I actually think the right organization for this to live in is an MSN. So I'm going to call it the MSN closed mail system. And I think it has to do with communication. So I'm going to select the communication option here and go to communications mail. And again, since I'm thinking about it as an MSN feature, I'm going to put it as an MSN product. And while I'm thinking about it, yeah, there are a couple products that can be related to. Maybe it relates to Hotmail. So there. And I'm not going to take the time to type in a long summary, but this is cool. Is it? Yep.
A question. So what happens if you have an idea that doesn't fit into any of these categories?
Under the top level categories, there's a bucket for miscellaneous.
Oh, okay.
So that's something that we did enable. Although one of the things, and I'm going to show you on the next page actually, that we do rely on is categorization to help us push ideas into people that might be interested in them or find them relevant to something they're working on. So as I click next, I'm going to get given to the next step in the idea submission process. And here I'm prompted to enter some keywords. And since the problem I'm really trying to solve is spam, I'm just going to throw spam in there. And I can also select some other categories. One of the things behind this idea right here is with keywords is we want to be able to help people find correlations and other ideas that are similar. And one of the things we do want to do is have a space, a way to kind of prevent a glut of the very similar ideas that are all fragmenting people that are kind of interested in the space. Instead, we want to help guide them to show them, hey, there's an idea that's that's pretty close to what you're talking about, or at least intersects with it, and maybe it would be a better idea to kind of work with that idea and contribute to that idea and join the efforts behind that. In the future, one of the things we're looking at is kind of how do we do auto keywords? Can we do some natural language processing to kind of analyze the summary and what you've submitted to date and create these keywords and update them over the lifetime of the idea. And that's something we've actually talked with a couple contacts in MSR for the future looking at, as well as an auto-categorization kind of component to that. I'm going to go ahead and submit that keyword. And so here it used the information I submitted, the categories and the keywords and stuff, and said, hey, it looks like there's another idea that might be interested here, as I was just talking about, and helping me as a user find other ideas that are similar and maybe contribute to them as opposed to starting a new effort around it. I actually look over the MS Courier, and I've already seen it, and I think that's pretty unique. My idea is unique from that, so I'm going to go ahead and click Next, and now I'm kind of given the option to save it as a draft if I want to flesh it out a little bit more in the future, or I can submit it. I'm feeling pretty good about this, so I'm going to submit it. And there, it takes us kind of to the idea homepage. I hope everyone can see that. There's a lot of sections below here, but based on the fact that I selected MSN, there's actually kind of subsections that I can fill out that kind of will help me flesh out what the MSN incubation review teams are looking for. If you guys want to move up, I see you guys wanting to make a step. Go ahead, move on down. The price is right. No? The price isn't right for you? Okay. So in this tab, I can continue to flesh out the idea as conversations with my peers and other people reviewing the ideas happen in other tabs. I can bring them back here and iterate on this. We have a space for people to be able to discuss an idea. Here you can see there's a thread module, and I'm not going to go through the UI, but we're using the ASP.NET forums package and allow people to have conversations that are kind of kept with the idea, so that they don't just disappear into email, but they're rather encased here, and you can kind of review them and search for them over time. And again, as we continue to build content using automatic analysis tools, start to kind of bubble things and find connections between ideas on the site that might be more similar than initially thought. To that effect, we have the related ideas, which here shows ideas that are in the category right now that are similar to this, as well as looking at some keyword stuff. This will continue to grow as more ideas are posted. Now, the resources tab is pretty interesting, is that one of the things we want to do as we continue to grow the site and get popularity is start reaching out to all the different silos of information within the company. Obviously there's a lot of great content on MSR Web, on Micro News, on MS Web, in the MS Library. And so we're starting to work with people like actually Dean and Tim Olson from your web team. We're working on them with some stuff for the future where we can do some automatic search queries and return the results embedded in the idea. And doing some things like that with the library as well to kind of hook in resources and give people tools and existing access to the silos of information out there to help them develop and grow their idea as they're working through this whole incubation process. Next, we have projects. And projects are interesting because this will show you all the projects that have been started from this idea, or give you the opportunity to start one in line. And the thing about this is anyone can start a project from any idea. And so I, as an idea submitter or creator, can get an idea started. And I don't necessarily have to, the success of it can also rely on the fact that the idea is really strong and people are really passionate about it and want to get fired up and start a project and start contributing to it. And so we thought that was something that's important. And, again, over time, as people create multiple projects from the same idea, that starts to give us like, hey, maybe this idea is really interesting and something we as a company have to look across. And that's kind of one of the goals with that tab. Finally, there's the incubation tab. This tab is where I can go when I feel the idea has been fleshed out well enough. I really have some deep thinking. I have a good game plan, and I'm feeling confident about it. And I want to get some feedback from the various incubation efforts at Microsoft. This is where I can go. I can submit it, and by adding I can add some comments and thoughts about it in the short term, and then it'll get submitted to, in this case right now, the MSN incubation, the Greenhouse, the new consumer products, the Windows Client incubation team, and Venice, a specific incubation team also. So after I submit it, they'll be notified, as Dane talked about, over email. They'll have the opportunity to come to the site, leave their feedback. And one of the key things here is they leave their feedback. It's actually readable by everyone. who comes to the MS Ideas site. And that's key because as ideas get commented on, given key feedback, that everyone who uses the site can kind of come and understand what the different incubation teams are looking for, what kind of thinking they want to see in place, what kind of facts and what kind of strategies they're acting upon, and that'll help people kind of build up their ideas, and strengthen them before submitting them so they can get the results they're looking for. A couple other things we have, they're going to be a little small, but you can see on every idea, you actually have the ability to subscribe for alerts. And if I click on it, it just simply subscribes me to it, and that allows me to get updates whenever there's new things going on with this idea, whether it's new content, edited content, new feedback, new project started. And that way, if there's something that you're interested in, you can kind of keep your eye on it. While you might not get involved with it right away, this kind of lets you keep looped in and kind of get a flow of the idea without having to come back to it every day or on a regular basis. There's also the ability to share an idea, which allows you to email an idea that you think, hey, I know, Dane is really interested in computer vision. And I saw this idea about computer vision. I'm going to send it to him. He might not have found it himself. Again, one of the things we want to do is start getting people together and getting ideas to cross-pollinate, collaborate, and get traction behind them as a result. So that's kind of the idea home space. I'm actually going to go up to the project space now and kind of talk about that. So one of the things about projects is we do something really cool. It's like you can take, again, from the project interface, start it from any idea. I'm actually going to go ahead and start one off of the the closed mail, and I'm going to do that. Communication, mail, and closed mail. And what we're going to actually do is we're going to go into another wizard experience here, but as part of this wizard, we're going to gather some information from you as the project leader, and we're going to dynamically provision a SharePoint site for you. So you now have a home on the Microsoft intranet to kind of post documents, post information, and have a virtual, meeting space to get traction on your idea. So, project title, implement this cool idea, and the mission is to do it well. And after I click here, I can add people right away and kind of let them be a jumpstart. If I've been talking to this idea with a bunch of friends already and we just want to get started in the project, I could add, say, well, I'll add myself because that's really probably key. Add them here. Then go ahead, and now in the next step, I, as a project leader, have a couple of extra additional responsibilities to make sure, the project is run in conjunction with our participation agreement and making sure that, certain intellectual property issues that we have to be very careful with a site like this are followed as far as, having code stay within the site and not be coming from outside sources. After I go ahead and read this over and can create it, it's going to take a couple seconds here. And what we're actually doing in the background is we're dynamically creating a SharePoint site, setting up a URL for you. And did I actually click the button? Yeah, it's going. Taking a little longer than it normally does. And then once that site's created, it's mine and the people, the team, the virtual team, together to use and to start building and getting our project started, whether it's by sharing code there, sharing conversations, and then also going back to this idea of posting a job. So here we go. Here's the site. That one looks a little weirder with the big text, but we've created, in the typical project, there's already a bunch of web parts there by default. There's a forum for discussion to go that's project-related. There's a job opening, which we're going to drill into in a second here. There's announcements and other typical SharePoint modules and web parts there, as well as the ability to kind of invite more members and monitor the project membership right from the start of the site. Oh, go ahead.
What about a source depot?
The question was, what about a source depot? That's not currently there, and I think depending on how projects are used after we get this out, that's definitely something we're going to add to our feature list to consider and implement in the future. Potentially even partnering with like BGIT, which already has a system for provisioning provisioning source depot sites. But we really want to get out there and see how people are going to use this first, and then kind of drive it from there. Got a question over there too.
Yeah, tell me if I'm jumping ahead, but it seems like a lot of ideas and projects are already like in development at this point. So when you roll this out, there's going to be a lot of people who are actually already at the project site, have a SharePoint site already, and then it's going to be kind of cumbersome. You set up this new one, and do you switch all your old content to the new one, etc. So do you have any provisions for people to, specifically with the SharePoint site, to link to something that they have already?
So we've seen a couple of workarounds for this already happen. So there's actually, it's interesting because there's three kind of spaces that can be in. There's actually also a bunch of funded incubation projects that are already going on. And so we've been working and building a hook from our UI to say, here's a funded incubation project that you may be interested in, and to get to their space, and whether it's a SharePoint site or if they've got their own custom portal running already in some of the more advanced incubation projects. So we've kind of got that in current version 1 right now that we're out right today. As far as a workaround that I've actually already seen is one team went and created a project and then just put up there, hey, we actually have another SharePoint site, here's the link. That's a little bit of a hacky, so I think it's something in, to address in the future versions and kind of get that solved and add it in there, as well as maybe even adding like a way to self-service, hey, just point to me here and give me a kind of a shell UI page. So again, I think that's something that we need to monitor as far as once the site gets popularity. We just went into V1.0 a little over a week ago now at this point, and so we're still kind of getting to see how people are reacting to this and using it. So does that answer your question?
Absolutely.
Great. So we kind of talked about the SharePoint, the projects that I actually want to go into the one last thing, and that's the job openings. So I'm also a PM, and I have no clue how to run a daily build. I know there's a lot of work that goes into that, and I really want to get help for the project. And so I'm going to actually say, hey, I want to look for someone that has a lot of experience in build, or maybe doesn't and wants to learn it. And I want to post a virtual job listing for them. So I'm going to say, build engineer, daily builds. Probably help if I spelled. I can't type right now. And I can submit it. Oh, I got it. Once I submit this job, it's actually going to get posted and kind of trickled throughout the MS Ideas page. Obviously, there's the Browse Jobs module, but it'll allow me to find, hopefully, other people that are interested in either building a skill or are passionate around a specific project and connect with them. And we thought that this, this is an important functionality. Dane talked about it a bit in his part of the presentation. But it's cool because you can see who's get kind of different people going for the position, build hype around the project, let people in, and kind of create your project space around them, and getting the right people to help you make your idea great. So I want to finally go over to the actual My Ideas page real quick, and here's kind of we show you overview of everything that's here. There's kind of my posted ideas, your draft ideas, your enhancements, the projects you're a part of, or ideas you've actually commented on. So it's kind of a couple of interesting things here you can do is you can get into, hey, what did I remember there was this really cool idea I commented on, I want to go kind of see how it's doing. Maybe you didn't sign up for an alert. Here's another place to get back to it to see what people are saying, as well as a final place to kind of control your existing alerts. I see your hand up. I'm going to answer it in 1 sec. Also here you can kind of dig into the Update My Profile page, which allows you to kind of say, hey, this is what I'm interested in. This is kind of a little bit more about me. So as you see ideas I'm posting, as ideas are posted to the site that may interest me, hey, can you guys route these to me? And let kind of the more information we know about you and the more information that you continue to post to the site, the better we can kind of start matching you up with similar interests as well as people that are wanting to work on things that you want to work on as well. So that's kind of one of the nice benefits that comes in with the My Ideas and the profile that we enable. Let me go ahead and answer your question, sir.
2 questions.
Sure.
One is that a lot of people are wrapping their knowledge and interest in blogs. They're starting to, for lack of a better source, so they're putting their information there. Of the various resources, I don't see a way that you can either link to their blogs or substitute their blogs with something here. Second question is, did you demonstrate how to search for ideas that aren't your own? This is general. This is kind of what I'm interested in.
I can do that for you right now. And I'll actually go to the live site because there's a lot of great content up there and a lot of really good resources. To address your first, so there were 2 questions that were asked. The first question was, how do we see blogs interacting with MS Ideas and what's the thinking around that? And the second question is, can we demonstrate how to search for ideas that are out there that we may be interested in? So the second question I'll demo in a second here, and I'm going to spend a quick second to answer the first question. That probably was really confusing. Anyhow, about blogs, I'm really passionate about blogs, and I think there's a big kind of a space that we need to figure out how, as people push out personal content and wrap around their core knowledge and share it in a public manner, how that intersects with ideas they may have and how to contribute. One of the things we have done is started taking a step in this is we have RSS feeds for ideas, projects, and job opportunities. I think as we look down the feature track, that is something that we need to figure out. Obviously there's an easy way to add a link, say here's my blog, but an even deeper integration of like, hey, maybe I can start using RSS and syndication to start publishing things back and forth and accumulating things in this space. To be honest, there's a lot of things that needs to be done in there, and I think it's, again, one of those things, as we kind of build out and see how people react to this, we're going to really we want to be able to incorporate things that people want to see and not just throw out a bunch of things and hope that people like them. Does that answer your question?
It's a good start.
All right. So I'm actually going to go to, that's kind of the end of my more formal demo part. I'm going to go do the advanced search on the live site, and let's go look for some ideas. I don't know that anyone will be able to see them too well, but is there any other questions that I can maybe answer right now on the demo, that something you saw in the UI or something you didn't understand?
More ideas. This site, like most SharePoint sites, is extremely text-oriented. I'm kind of curious. I mean, if I were to do a site, I'd do something that would be more graphic, more visually oriented. Matter of fact, your bullet points about the process said most of what I needed to know in a very nice, short, compact way. And if I had that as a link to get into these other pages, I could probably find what I wanted pretty quickly. So one interesting question is presentation. How do you accommodate people who think in terms of pictures rather than words? How do you accommodate businessmen who think in terms of numbers rather than words or pictures? How do you think about people who think in terms of processes, like system analysts who like to, I know that I need this, I need to go from here to there, and that's got some steps in between along the way. I need to plug this, that, and there. So modalities of thinking, modalities of learning are things that teachers, therapists, idea vendors have to deal with. And to the extent that this idea might be oriented towards one point of view, it might prevent people from thinking the way they normally think.
That's a really interesting comment, and I'll be, honest that that's something we should think about in the long term and in the short term. As far as being able to include pictures to describe ideas is definitely something that's on our radar. Being able to use how that can expand into all the other formats of expression and communication is something that I definitely think that's a space also that we could do a lot of thinking around and
cheap answers are just the other.
Yeah, I think we're going to look at also incorporating the ability to do things in Office, build documents in Office, and upload the documents in there, templates and things like that. I have to say that it's a V1. We're starting somewhere. I think it's great to get the feedback around the visual process and thinking about ways to improve it. So that's one of the things you'll see towards the end of this is asking for the feedback and looking for the areas that you think we need to improve or add features.
So I'm going to go demo the advanced search functionality real quick, and I'm going to hand it back over to Dane. I think I've already talked longer than I normally do at one of these things. So from our advanced search interface, we actually give you a bunch of opportunities to search on different object types, whether it's an idea, a forum, a group, a project, a job, or a product enhancement. And there you can kind of drill down into a search string. Do you have something you'd like to search for? Anyone in the audience?
Any help documentation? We'll find it.
Documentation. We'll try that. So, and I can search across, limiting by date range, by user alias. So if there's people I know that are interesting or have had interesting ideas before that I want to kind of see what else they go, I can do that. Category, products, and target organization are all options here. Once we cook up the search, let's see what we get for documentation. Wow, we actually got a ton of ideas here. So let's see. There's a project knowledge. Maybe this is a good idea. The process-oriented knowledge management system allows project managers to pre-configure documentation paths that have proven to be successful best practices. Again, one of the things that we wanted to do is make it easy to find ideas that are interesting to you. So we really, in the V1.0, made sure we had a good advanced search capability that lets you search across object types, across different criteria that you may be interested in. Again, we're already seeing, I think we've been live for, again, like I said, a little over a week. We've been in beta since early January, and we've had, I don't know if you're going to have the stats a little bit later, but close to 200 posted ideas, 50, 60, or around 50 product enhancements, almost 3,000 users come by. I mean, there's definitely an excitement here, and I think we're going to have a lot of ideas, and getting people to get to the ideas that are interested in them is going to be something that we also have to solve. Anyhow, I want to pass it back off to Dane, unless you have any other questions for me. Thanks for letting me ramble.
Excellent, thanks. So I'm going to probably skip the benefits slide because I think we've probably covered that in most cases. What I do want to do is spend a little bit of time about how MS Ideas might fit in with MSR. One of the things that we see is integrating the MSR ideas into product cycles and into products. Today, I know that Dean and team are sort of the technological evangelizers for MSR and drive a lot of these things in. You also see folks from researchers themselves going after product teams. I got a cool idea. One of the things that we think is an opportunity here is for ideas to be posted to sort of be flushed out and to say, well, I don't know if this is quite how I do it, and maybe I might do it this way, or for the product team's perspective, we need this feature or this problem solved. One of the features that Bubba was talking about that we're looking at seriously in the near term is the ability to post problems and challenges. And we think this is important in both directions. From a product team perspective, we have a hard challenge in search. How do we solve that problem? And that opens up the problem to everybody. But I think in a lot of cases, there are answers that are already available inside of MSR, and it's just about sort of connecting and finding those answers. We also think there's good opportunities for collaboration. So we definitely would encourage folks inside of MSR to go through the ideas that are posted and look for opportunities to leverage MSR technologies. As we build more features into MS Ideas to sort of pump the MSR ideas into the process, it will be less of a need. But right now, I think there's a variety of really good ideas that have already been posted up on the site. I have to be honest, I was kind of blown away by the quality of some of the ideas that have been posted. Folks have written 8,000-word tomes on how this feature should work and have really thought about most of the angles. So it's very encouraging to see that, and I think there's some great opportunities to leverage what's happening inside of MSR in this process. I also think that we have some ideas of some MSR technology and some MSR ideas that could work well within MS Ideas as features or as feature extensions, and we definitely would look forward to hearing your feedback on that. As well as, are there things that we don't do on the site that would make it really easy for you to use? So again, talk sort of catered towards you guys, and so I definitely would like to sort of work through that and some thoughts and questions as we close up here. So what do we need from you guys? I think I covered most of this, but try out the version 1. Go look at the site. Does it work? Does it not? What do you like? What do you don't like? Tell us. MS Ideas. That's it. Yes, it's pretty easy to find. And right now there's a link off of MS Web, I think, and MSR Web, as well as I think there's a micronews article about it to kind of get a little bit of publicity out inside the company around it. Our alias for feedback is iComment, so it's pretty easy to remember as well. And we definitely get a lot of good feedback on that alias. It's great to see the folks that are really energized around the ideas. So with that, I'll open up to some more Q&A, and if you guys have questions or ideas, things that we're missing, things we should be doing, technology we should be leveraging, any ideas? Yeah?
So how are you going to, well, I'd love to how you're going to mine the ideas, but I guess your process model is once you think that your project is sort of ready to go, at that point you try to get an evangelist, to get a supporter, get a team.
So a couple things. One, we'd recommend, as the person that owns the idea, we'd recommend you submit to the incubation review, because what that does is it ties the idea directly to all the product divisions to look at the idea and see if there's a good fit. It also will connect you with, we don't see a good fit in our organization, but we really think you should talk to so-and-so. The incubation teams are probably some of the most plugged-in teams across the company as far as what's happening in all the different product pieces, because they're trying to figure out, what are the good ideas that they should go investigate and spend some cycles on. So they're very good at, we may not fund it, but you should talk to so-and-so. So that would be the first suggestion. Second is, moving forward, we want to look at ways that product teams can come into the site and look and mine the ideas. So as the idea number grows, clearly it's going to become a challenge to go through all of them. And so we're going to look at tools to do that. We're going to look at ways to leverage how much interaction an idea has had to bubble up. So we imagine that, for example, if an idea is viewed a tremendous amount on the site, people post discussion forums around it, that idea is probably interesting, and that should be noted. And so already we see those things, and there's some modules on the site that show most viewed ideas and things like that to bubble them up. But at the same time, we looked at incubation teams to also be able to mine that data and say, wow, this person may not be committed to the idea in the sense of they want to champion it and they want to go fund it, but it's an interesting idea and there's a lot of collaboration going on around it. We should go look at this. So, yeah.
When an idea is posted and there might be similar ideas already on the site, do you have someone who manually establishes the linkage between that new idea and the similar ideas, or do you have automatic ways of doing that?
So we don't have automatic ways of doing it besides showing what's related to ideas. What we are looking at doing is tying related ideas into the incubation submission process. So when someone says, I have an idea, I think it's really interesting, I want to submit it to incubation. Well, 2 or 3 other people may have related ideas, and those folks should be notified that it's being submitted and probably told that their ideas are going to be tagged along with it so people can take a look at it. Because ultimately, if ideas are related, you kind of want to get a look at the landscape of all the ideas, especially from an incubation perspective. You know, which part of this is the interesting part. For example, Bubba's MSN closed mail. Neat idea for MSN. Will we do it? Who knows? But it might have some nuggets inside of that idea that are related or important to Office, right, and Outlook and how we evolve spam filtering there and Exchange. And so I think the key for us is to try to make sure that all the incubation teams get involved in that process as well as all the related ideas. So it's not something that we do great today, but it's something that we definitely identify as something we want to do going forward. Yeah.
Much tougher question. I don't know if we still have wish lists anymore. There used to be an Office wish list, and they seem to vanish all the time. But it raises the question of what if you have suggestions from outside the company as well as suggestions from inside the company? You might have some desire to draw from both branches, but keep a dividing wall between them so as not to make rules. But certainly there are going to be a lot of noisy conversation outside the company that might have some granular of value. It makes me wonder how to take advantage of it, if not to perhaps have a referee and get an opportunity to at least eight groups and various maybe office in the product documentation. The product may come across an idea that seems interesting from the customer. They may or may not want to actually put it in their product, but they may want to track it in a way different than putting it in Product Studio. It's kind of a good idea. Maybe someone in their group might want to keep track of it as an advocate, which is a little different than saying I want to run with the idea, but I don't want to let the idea just completely go away because it's interesting. And you review it yearly to decide if you still want to be interested. Matter of fact, that also has to do with aging ideas. You know, how long do ideas stay in this idea before you decide, well, you know, it's been around this long and we aren't that interested. We want to start archiving it.
Sure. No. So towards the first question, I think it's a great idea, and I'd suggest you post it on MS Ideas. But the honest answer is we're really trying to tackle the internal problem first, and it is a problem as far as how to manage the customer data. In fact, you brought up the legal issues, and there are serious legal issues about how that works in IP ownership and a variety of other things, which is one of the reasons that we explicitly said that is not a problem we're going to tackle in a V1 timeframe. So I think it's a great problem, though, and it's definitely something that should be posted and captured. As far as archiving ideas, we can't wait to have that problem. So we have 200 ideas on the site today that fill a variety of categories. We're not at a point yet where we need to do that. As far as deleting ideas, we'll probably never do that from an IP standpoint, right? Because once an idea is posted on this service, it's a way of documenting the idea and sort of capturing it that it existed at a certain time and when it existed. So some legal reasons not to delete them. Archiving definitely may occur, but I think our goal right now would be not to have that happen. Fresh ideas may bubble up higher in search results and how we do search and things like that, but you should ultimately be able to find any of the ideas, even if they were 10 years old. They might be interesting. Yeah.
It would be for version 2 or some later incarnation. I think it would be cool in the stage where you post ideas, if you could also bring up, based on the keywords that you enter, based on your summary, if you could bring up intranet sites, of people that sort of do related stuff. So you can sort of at the idea stage, maybe there's nothing posted on MS Ideas yet, but maybe, even with your example, right? It's something spam related. Okay, it would be cool if you could find, okay, there's people in research, working on spam. These are the web pages. These are, project pages that they have. These are publications. So you can sort of branch out, and if you want to even contact these people personally, or at least, read the stuff they've been doing.
Yeah.
So it's sort of going beyond the pool of ideas into the pool of, intranet sites that have innovations already sort of scattered all over the place.
Absolutely, and 100% agree. As far as MSR is concerned specifically, we're already working to figure out ways that we can mine the MSR database and pull those results into MS Ideas. As far as looking across the organization at SharePoint sites, I think it's a great idea. One of the things that we probably will need to focus on going forward more is product team exposure on the site. So today we have a list of products. We figured there was no way on earth that we would come up with the full list of products. So we started with a small list and people can add to the list. How we do that and how we mine that and how that grows is something that we definitely need to look at. And imagine that a product team, once they came into the site and sort of became a participant in this process, could say, here's our SharePoint site, here's our feature plans, here's our roadmap and things like that. So people can get a perspective on something that they're not a part of. So we definitely see that as sort of a great evolution point, and we look forward to getting there.
Could Dane speak to the question of whether MindNet builds relationships between thingies, like ideas, that might help you find one idea related to another? Which MindNet, the product that does kind of find relationships between things, is that true?
There's a research project that is currently machine translation. Is that right? It's not really used for ideas.
But it does find relationships between words and sentences.
Yeah, and then for the content that it's.
So if I were...
You could probably use it for similarity between the summaries, but keyword spotting is likely to get you
better hits.
No, not necessarily better, but certainly much easier to do. It'll probably get you a good way to what you're looking for.
One of the things that we want to do once there's a large enough data set of ideas is look at collaborative filtering and look at auto-categorization and things like that. So that, I know, I'm out of it today. To actually be able to remove the step of someone having to go through a list of 100 different categories and get that a little bit better, a little bit easier. So. Yeah.
What do you estimate is the average amount of time spent per idea by an idea producer?
Producer. Wow, we don't have data on that. That's a great question. Looking through the ideas that have been posted so far, it's clear that it covers the spectrum. There are people that have posted ideas that pretty clearly, spent about 5 or 10 minutes thinking about the idea and posted it. And there are other ideas that have been posted that look like someone has spent months thinking about this and doing the analysis. So it covers the gamut.
My issue with it, too, is that it seems that the bar is very high. And that it's not the amount of time spent thinking, but it seems hard to get through this without spending 5-10 minutes posting it. And for the ideas that are less likely to get conveyed otherwise, and some of the people who have better ideas are people who this is not something that they can credit to their job, and they don't have that much free time, and 10 minutes is a very large amount. In fact, for the spam thing, if I had that idea, I would probably say, okay, how many forms do I have to go through? That's, say, page 1 of 4. All I have is the idea. I don't have any expertise, knowledge in it. I think I would give up before I even started. And that's to me, that's the most valuable class of ideas that need to be conveyed, where someone else can do something with the idea. It's just an idea. It's not a project.
It sounds more like the suggestion bin that they hunt in right now. And you do, I think, want to have some sort of self-filtering. Otherwise, you will have a trillion really crummy, not well thought out projects.
Well,
it sounds like you're working towards more of the suggestion.
I don't know what the suggestion is. I would do a self-filtering. That's my problem. Filtering, yeah.
Yeah, there's definitely a challenge there, and I agree that there's a little bit more process than I would even hope that we had. But product enhancements, we didn't show that and go through that, but that's a much shorter path. So, for example, if you have an idea for this image enclosed mail, could have easily been a Hotmail product enhancement or a Outlook product enhancement. And for those, it's basically the title, the idea, submit, and go. And we still, try to keep people from submitting ideas that are related to a bunch of other ones. But we catch that once you posted it. So another idea that we've considered doing is something where you could email ideas. And so because it's all based on CourtMap, you could type up an email, we could do some parsing on it and try to punch it into an idea, maybe suggest, yeah, that's right or not. But
it's an interesting point, what you were saying about how the particular example you used could have been either, and I think that's probably true for most things, and many categories of ideas will fit into neither. So I guess if I was looking at that, I would wonder what bin to choose initially, because you're saying they ask you different questions, and I assume it gets evaluated too.
I have a similar question in that, is it one category or several?
Yep. So you can definitely do multiple categories, so that's not a problem. But the idea of which bucket does it go into is something that we launched product enhancements as an ask, basically, from folks that said, I just have a small idea, I just want to be able to post it. And it's sort of the same kind of question.
Does it really matter what bucket it goes into? Does it really, if I choose one over the other, how does that affect the downstream evaluation of it? Do they effectively produce the same SharePoint site and all these other sorts of things?
So currently,
and then they go get evaluated by other people, or is there an advantage to one over the other?
So currently, the infrastructure around a full-blown product idea is much larger, because there's infrastructure for which target organization is, how do I expand this idea, how do I think through all of the issues that you might not think through in just a quick summary. So, but it's definitely an open question for us to see how these two things evolve, because product enhancements, since we launched, has been just as popular, or in some cases more popular, than submitting a full product idea. And so I think as we see sort of the first wave of data come in to see how people are using the site, we'll make some course corrections around that. So it's hard to guess exactly how everyone's going to use all this stuff. And so what we want to do is we look at MS Ideas as an incubation, right? And so it's an internal incubation. It's great. We get to see how people use it, and we're looking to get the feedback. So I think it's great that you identified these problems, and it's definitely something we want to sort of think through and see how people use it today. Yeah.
Maybe you're right, the idea, but as a jumpstart, to just about a week into this, with TechFest, there's like, there's hundreds of ideas and projects already there.
And
just
walking
sending
around the floor.
Yeah, and just sending, those teams email basically saying, hey, do you want to just quickly enter this here? Because that's basically, it's fresh stuff. It's not stale yet.
Yeah. Well, all that stuff would be posted in a static form, so it can be crawled by MSR Web as well as an S-Web or other sites. So it's all pretty easy to find. It'll be even easier to find the content that's out there. Also, for those of you who are in research and have an idea and you're looking for project content, and you have an additional resource that you can just send us a piece of email on this RPM. So we can pretty easily connect folks. That's our job, is to stay deeply connected with the product groups.
My understanding about the difference, though, is that's connecting with the product groups, I would say, after the idea stage. This is sort of before you've really done any significant work on it. And I would guess, I may be wrong here, but I would guess that I would talk to MSR PMs after it was pretty far along, and then you're looking for some collaboration.
Well, I've had many researchers, for example, approach me or folks in my team to say, here's an area I want to work in. Who would be some people to kick around the idea with, and the product group who would just be interested in helping to define the problem or the question, for example, who might have research data that would be valuable to themselves. No, in fact, it's quite fine as long as you're talking to the right people with the right context to have discussions very early on. It doesn't have to be it's more what expectation you set around the discussion that that's the problem.
Any other questions?
Can an idea be reviewed over? If I'm looking at the question of what drives the evolution of an idea, I'm looking at the question of personalities. shy personality versus the startup entrepreneur. Those personalities are going to drive the project in two different ways. Getting interest from a lot of other people can be very encouraging, especially if it's like out of the back blog kind of commentary versus it's a very silent idea. Not a lot of people follow up on it, even though it may be a decent idea. People may not get it initially for whatever reason. So these are in my category of things that that's something to think about. I don't think you can answer it.
Sure. That's good feedback.
Goals is important. Why should someone give you an idea if it takes away from their time to do something that is a priority that their boss is looking at? Says, usually you can work with this. And it's I have this idea. We need to work with this. Well, that's just going to undermine anyone thinking about it. So it's going to be one of those working off-site solutions, one of those ideas that you work at home.
Yeah, that's definitely an area that requires more more thinking. So currently, it's not designed to enhance your review goal. It's about just being a Microsoft citizen and saying, I have a good idea. Most organizations that I've been a part of have been pretty open to that process. I definitely imagine that there are challenges across the organization for sort of splitting up your time, but it's something that I think we'll see evolve as the interest goes. Yeah. Any other questions? Okay. Thanks. Appreciate it.